All right. So let's start with today's class. Today we are going to start with a new chapter, that is the data link layer. Okay. So this is going to be a pretty important chapter, and then maybe in between one day we will just take out and we will have a numerical session on the last chapter that we have done. All right. So let's start with the link layer today, which is the layer 2. If you go from bottom to top in the TCP/IP layer. So what is the content of this chapter? So first of all, we are going to see, or we are first going to understand the principles behind the different link layer services. So what are the services that data link layer provides? Okay, it provides error detection and correction facilities. It provides multiple access. Okay, so basically sharing a broadcast channel. So suppose there are many nodes or many hosts which are sharing the same channel for communication. In that case, there will be a contention, right? That who will access the channel at what time. That is known as multiple access. And there is, of course, if there is contention, so you need to, of course, have solutions which will help you to overcome such issues. Okay, so in that case, we would require different multiple access strategies. All right. Then what we have is link layer addressing. So yeah. So in link layer addressing, what we have is, so we will also understand in this case that we have in the previous layer when we were studying about network layer, we have learned about IP addressing. That is one way of identifying the hosts among a network of all the hosts that we are having in the network, right? But what is link layer addressing and what is this different kind of addressing? Why do we need this? That's also we are going to study in this chapter. Then we are going to study about local area networks, that is your Ethernet and VLANs. Okay, so this is how this chapter is going to be. We are going to start one by one. Now, after that, we will take a look, a very small look at data center networks, and then instantiation, implementation of various link layer technologies. Okay, so again, this is now error detection and correction and multiple access protocols. These are two modules that we are going to study. And then the third module is LANs, where we are going to study about addressing, okay, MAC addressing, which has a corresponding protocol, which is known as ARP or Address Resolution Protocol. Then we are going to study about Ethernet switches, VLANs, and then finally link virtualization, which is corresponding to which we are going to study multi-protocol label switch or multi-protocol label switching called MPLS, and then finally a bit of data center networking. All right. Now, okay. So these are the two things. We'll start with a bit of introduction and end with a day in the life of a web request, which is, see, in this book, if you have seen the book of Kuros and Ross, our main focus is mostly from the um, application layer until the data link layer, right? So when we are looking at, when we are finishing this link layer chapter, after that we should be able to know that what happens when there is a web request which is given out by any particular process in a system. After that, what are the different things that goes on in that particular web request, on that particular web request until it reaches its until it reaches its destination. Okay, so this is what we are going to study. So in the end of this chapter, we will be getting to know that what happens to a web request once it's generated. All right. So this will be a summary of all the chapters that you have learned and what are the protocols that actually go on. So this is going to be very interesting. All right. Now, let's start with the introduction. Okay. So, what we have studied until now, application layer, transport layer, network layer, and then finally data link layer. Okay. So, of course, data link layer is going to be there for the nodes as well as for the routers which are there in between. Okay. Now, so different communication channels that connect adjacent nodes along the communication path, they are called as links, and how these links are going to be accessed by different nodes, that's what is known as how to access the channel. Okay, so when we are having multiple nodes trying to access the same link which is in broadcast channel, in that case we have the issue of multiple access. Okay, now what can be the different types of links? Links can be wired, they can be wireless, and they can be local area networks, which we know that within the same building you have LANs, right? So any access issues, access contention issues, if we want to sort that out, then we should have some multiple access protocols associated to it. Okay. Now, what is the responsibility of the link layer? What is the task? It has the responsibility of transferring datagram from one node to physically adjacent node over a link. Okay. It is not responsible for sending the data to the uh, destination. If your destination itself is the adjacent node, then it's a different story. But it is not responsible for transferring your datagram from one node to the destination node. It is only responsible for transferring the datagram which it gets from the network layer above to the node which is physically adjacent to the given node over a given link. Now the link can be wired or wireless. Okay. So you can ask that why am I talking about datagrams here? Because datagram is the way in which the data is received at the link layer from the network layer. Okay, so its job is to transfer the datagram to the corresponding adjacent node. But what is the way in which it sends that particular datagram? It makes a frame out of it. So in the frame, it encapsulates the datagram and then sends it to the or transfers it to the physically adjacent node over the adjoined link between the two nodes. Okay. Now, of course, if we want to have connections, or if we are having different links and different hosts are associated to these links, then we should definitely have different protocols, which will help to access those links. Okay, so you can have some links, you can have like wired links, some links you can have wireless links, right? Some you can have like just think about your own. In your house if you are having Wi-Fi. Okay, so in that case your system or your phone from wherever you are trying to send your data, so that link uses wireless link to the access point or the router that you are having in your house. Okay, access point router. But from there onwards, if it goes, it can be it can be a wired link, right? So in that case, it can be a mixture of either wireless link or wired link. Okay, so the datagram that is being transferred from the system has to definitely there has to be some sets of protocols which will allow it to be sent either over a wireless link or over a wired link. Okay, now, each link protocol provides different services. For example, some link layer protocols provide reliable data transfer. Some do not provide reliable data transfer over a link. Okay. Now, what are the different link layer services? Okay. So first is framing. All right. So what is framing? It is also known as link access. Um, Okay, before I start further, I think Pradeep, you are the TA, right? Hello, Pradeep.
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Okay, anyways,
Hello, hello.
okay, I cannot hear Pradeep. Anyways, if
Uh,
you can hear me, or to the
huh.
students who can hear me, sometimes there is network issues that is happening. If at all there is some network issue, then please let me know somehow that there is a network issue, because if I am presenting, I may not be able to see that. I mean, generally I do not go and see, or I do not get a notification that I have been disconnected. Okay, so in that case, let's not, we should not waste our time. So if at all there is some network issue, or you're unable to hear me out, anything, just let me know, inform me. Okay, all right. Let me just go back and start again. Okay, all right. So we are going to start with what are the services that are provided in a data link layer protocol. Okay, so what are the services that are related to data link layer? So one is framing. Okay, so as you know, the data, the datagram that is received from the network layer is encapsulated in a frame, and then it is transferred over the medium later. Okay, so there has to be a way in which that datagram should be encapsulated into a frame. Okay, so that is one, that is known as framing. Then we should have proper link access. So that's what I have already mentioned, that if the link is being shared between many hosts or many nodes, in that case there could be contention to access that link. In that case, we should have a proper protocol for channel access, so that such that the contention amongst the nodes is reduced. Okay, now, remember I had mentioned about addressing in this chapter also. So that is MAC addresses or medium access control. MAC addresses in frame headers. So we will see what are MAC addresses. Of course, they are related to some link layer service. Okay. So what are these and why are these needed? We will see to that. But when we are talking about framing, these MAC addresses, they do form, or they do have a very important role, because uh, the MAC addresses present in the frame, okay, the frame's headers, they identify the source and destination. Okay, and as it has been, as you can see in the slide itself, that MAC addresses are of course different from IP addresses that we have studied in the network layer chapter. Okay, how they are different and all that, of course, we'll study in this chapter. Right? Now next is reliable data delivery between adjacent nodes. We have learnt about reliable data delivery in transport layer, right? So why should we again read about this? Okay, so yeah, so of course, as you can see that there can be many bit errors that can happen when we are actually trying to transfer the data. Okay, so instead of having just one reliable data delivery protocol that we are having on the transport layer, we are having one more here at the link layer. So this is a bit in a different way. I'll try to tell. See, in general, when we are going from bottom to top, that is from file layer to the application layer, we earlier we had our error detection, error correction, all of these protocols in the, so data link layer, a bit of it in the network layer also. Okay, so in the data link layer, we have all the bit error corrections and bit error detections. Okay, but it may not be possible, or it may not be correct every time for each and every user. Okay, because this is at the routers also, this is at the um, nodes also. Okay, So in order to make it more reliable, in order to have better error detection and correction capabilities at the hosts, again some protocols were added in the upper layers. Okay, so that we can have a better data or a more reliable data delivery. Okay, so if you go back and read the book Kuros and Ross, you will find there that why we are actually studying these two different reliable data delivery protocols. Why it is there in the why we have studied it in the transport layer also, and why we are again going back in the link layer also. Okay, so this is the reason why we do that. Okay, in order to have, so instead of doing it once, if you do it more than once, the probability of getting a much more reliable data becomes higher. Okay, all right. So what are some more services that data link layer will provide? Of course, flow control. Okay, then error detection, error correction. Okay, now flow control is of course that how or how much of data can be sent between adjacent nodes. Error detection is of course that you have errors that can be caused by signal attenuation, errors can be caused by noise. So the receivers should be able to detect the errors and then ask for a retransmission, or they can drop the frame. On top of that, I mean, there's another way that instead of simply just asking for retransmission or dropping the frame, you can also do the error correction. Okay, so the receiver basically identifies and corrects the bit errors without asking for a retransmission. Okay, so we will study both of these, and finally it allows half duplex and full duplex communication. I'm sure you know both about both of these. But anyways, with half duplex, nodes at both ends of the link can transmit, but they cannot transmit at the same time. Whereas in full duplex, they can transmit at the same time. All right. Okay. So where is the link layer implemented? Okay. So we of course know that link layer will be implemented at each and every host present in the network. Okay, so that is one thing, but where in each and every host? That is the question. Okay, so that is basically implemented in the network interface card or NIC, or on a net, yeah, it is known as also the NIC card. Okay, so it can be on a chip also. For example, your Ethernet Wi-Fi card or chip, and this is how it looks like. Okay, so you have the host bus here, you have CPU memory, and this is your NIC card or network interface card, which has a controller, and this is where the PHY related activities or the protocols will be carried out. Okay, and then the data can be transferred. All right, so this is basically the work of the NIC card. All right. So it implements both the link layer protocols as well as the file layer protocols. Okay. So how it works out, it attaches into the host system buses. All right. And then of course, whenever there is any kind of, so from here, from the CPU, you are getting all of the tasks that are being done on the upper layers. All that is done. Then the layer ones, sorry, the lower ones are coming into this, the network interface card or NIC card. There you are implementing the link layer protocol and link layer protocols and the file layer protocols. Okay, it is of course a combination of both hardware, software, and firmware. All right, so this is what I just told. Now, yes, some part of it is, so now you can ask me that I just told that link layer is implemented in the controller, but why it is coming, some part of it is coming in the CPU here. Okay, So it cannot be like all the tasks are done in this particular chip independently, right? There has to be for certain protocols. For example, we are talking about error detection, error correction, etc. For certain protocols, we would be requiring some communication with the CPU also. It is definitely going to control all the tasks that are happening in the NIC card. Okay, otherwise, why would we are basically working in a system. The CPU's access is definitely mandatory here. So therefore, it is working in the link layer. The link layer protocols are working in both of these. We take help of the CPU also, and of course, the controller is what implements the link layer protocols, and the physical layer protocols are here. Okay, in this module present in the NIC card. Okay, so let's see how it works out. So at the network layer, we do have the data in the form of a datagram. Okay. Now what will happen at the link layer? We will encapsulate it to a frame. Okay. So when we encapsulate the datagram to a frame, we have to add some extra data on it, which will identify the link layer specific protocols. Right. So what are the things that from the sending sides it has to add? So it has to add error checking bits, reliable data transfer, whatever protocols we are using for the corresponding data related to reliable data transfer, flow control, etc. And then this data is transmitted over the medium. Now, when it is read at the other side, okay, and that means at the receiver node side, then what it will do at the link layer, it will look for errors, if any, um, corresponding tasks of reliable data transfer, flow control, etc. And then after that, it will extract the datagram and pass it over to the upper layer. Okay. So this is how the communication will happen. Okay. Now, first today we will start with multiple access protocols. Okay. Let's start with multiple access link protocols today. After that, we will start with error detection and correction. So as far as I told you by now, what is multiple access? Okay. So if a particular link is being shared by more than one host, in that case, there can be a contention for accessing accessing the link. So in that case, some multiple access protocols are required so that contention is reduced. So that's why we need multiple access protocols. Okay. But before that, we need to first understand what are the different multiple access links. Okay. So there are two types of links. One is, of course, point-to-point link, that is between Ethernet switch and the host. Okay, um, and for dial-up access, we can use that. And then we have broadcast medium. Okay, broadcast medium can be either a wired medium, which is shared between different hosts, as you can see here. Okay, so previously when we had Ethernet connections, this is how the layout used to happen. That there's a shared medium, and we have a single shared media, and that is being shared by different hosts. Okay, so this is how the cabled Ethernet used to work. Then you can have shared radio medium, right? That is your cellular networks. That medium, that is also one of the shared wireless medium. So you can share. I mean, your different hosts can share this medium. Then again, you have Wi-Fi. Of course, this is very common to all of you. There are several devices, like at least 5 to 6 devices in each, depending upon your access point strength. Okay, signal strength. You have different sets of or different number of users that can actually access the Wi-Fi access point at the same time. However, they will still contend to access the medium whenever they have uh, requests to they have generated requests in them. Okay, so for that also we would be requiring multiple access protocols in order to avoid such a contention. And within this category of shared radio, even satellite communication comes into picture, right? Because the medium is same for all, right? We are simply so we're using the if you're using the same frequency, that means you are sending in the same bandwidth, you are sending the data from different hosts. In that case, there will be issues with the transmission. Okay, where so for channel access, there will be contention amongst these different hosts. Okay. So this is just an example that has been given here in order to just give you an illustration of what is this medium access contention. So basically, this is like, if there are a set of people in a cocktail party or any party, or just a set of people in a given small area. So then when everybody starts talking, you cannot hear anything, right? Properly, you cannot hear anything. You just hear the noise. So similarly, when it comes to any host, and here in the term, in the example of humans at a cocktail party, the shared medium is of course air. Okay, everybody is sending sounds from whenever you talk, it's just sound and it's just a signal that is being transferred over the medium, right? So when it comes to the humans, everybody is sending their voice signals over air, that is the medium. And if they start talking at the same time, then only garbled voices will reach the receiver or anybody else who's sitting a little far away from that party, who wants to listen to somebody but is unable to listen to it because of all the additional garbled voices which are coming. So similarly, when it comes to a set of nodes which are using the same medium, in that case, when they all start to transmit or when they all want to transmit at the same time, there will be a contention. Okay, so there should be some kind of scheduling or some way in which the different nodes should be able to transfer or should be able to get access to the channel to transfer their data. Okay. So, what can be the different kinds of links? So, first is single shared broadcast channel. Okay, so there's a channel, single channel, which is being shared by different hosts. Okay, now two or more simultaneous transmissions by nodes will lead to interference among the signals. Of course, as I just mentioned through the example of humans talking to each other or just humans talking in a party. Okay, so in that case, each of their voices will start interfering with each other, right? You cannot hear a very clear sentence from anybody. You will hear several other noises also. So same thing will happen in this case also. Okay, if there are more than one nodes which want to transmit signals at the same time, then those signals can interfere with each other, which will lead to collision of data packets, and eventually this might lead to packet drops. Okay, so multiple access protocols can be distributed algorithms that determine how the nodes should share the channel. Okay, that means at what time which node can transmit their data. Okay, and if it is a distributed algorithm, then of course this communication about the sharing of the channel, that means in what sequence which node will access the channel, that information should be informed to everybody else. Okay, so in this case, communication about channel sharing must use the channel itself, and there should not be any out of band channel of co coordination for coordination. Okay, so that means you should not use any other channel in any other frequency for the coordination. In this same channel itself, you should send this information about who will schedule after whom, and you will also use the distributed algorithm to transfer the data via the same channel. Okay. So what is an ideal multiple access protocol? So in an ideal multiple access channel, or a channel where multiple hosts want to transmit, in an ideal channel, what how should it work out? That there should not be any collision, right? In an ideal channel, that should be the scenario. Now, how can we have such kind of a scenario? That whenever a node wants to transmit, it can transmit the data with a given data rate, and here it is given out as R. Okay. Now, whenever any nodes, or if there are m nodes who want to transmit their data, they can simply transmit their data without even thinking of whether it will cause a collision or not. Okay, so when m nodes want to transmit, each sender, each of these nodes or sender nodes can send the data at an average rate of R upon n. Okay, and when this happens, that means each of the nodes present in this particular network, they should have some information about the current scenario of the channel. Okay, so these set of protocols, they should be fully decentralized, so that there's no special node that will be able to coordinate the transmissions, because if that happens, that means all the nodes are actually dependent on the this special node, which is the coordinator of this kind of channel access mechanism. Okay, so it's best to have a fully decentralized multiple access protocol, and if we want to have a fully decentralized set of protocols, in that case, the problems that will occur is that there would not be any synchronization of clocks and synchronization of slots. That means if you divide the given time into different slots where different nodes can actually transfer their data, there has to be a synchronization amongst all the nodes present in the network, that which slot belongs to which node for transmitting their data. And what should be the other feature for an ideal multiple access protocol? That it should be simple. Okay, so if you want to have an ideal multiple access protocol, first is, when one node wants to transmit data, it can transmit with a given data rate R. When a number of nodes, that is, if there are n nodes, then when a number of nodes try to transmit their data, then they should be able to send the data at the rate which is already given. So that means if there are a total of m nodes, then if they all want to transmit, then out of fairness, the average rate at which they should transmit their data should be R by M. Okay. Then what should be one of the features? That it should be fully decentralized, in order to avoid all the complexities related to coordinating the transmissions and synchronization. And then finally, that given all of these issues, these seem to be a bit complicated if you hear it out for the first time, right? So given all of these issues, yet it has to be a very simple protocol. Okay, all right. So let's get to the taxonomy of MAC protocols, or medium access control protocols. So this is divided into three broad classes. One is channel partitioning. That means you divide the channel into smaller logical pieces. Okay, these pieces can be in terms of time slots, or it can be in the terms of frequency or code. Then these pieces which have been divided, they should be allocated to the nodes for their exclusive use cases. The second class is random access. Okay, So random access protocols, what should be their features? So here what happens is, of course, the channel is not divided. So therefore, it will not allow multiple collisions to occur, multiple transmissions to occur at the same time. If at all multiple transmissions occur at the same time, in that case, it will lead to collisions. Okay, so this is one issue with random access protocols. And however, if at all there is some collision, then these protocols allow to recover from collisions. The other one is the taking turns protocol. Okay. So this is nothing but a set of protocols which will simply help you to schedule as to which node should access the channel at which point of time. Okay, so these are a few set of protocols. They are also known as the taking turns protocols. So what happens here? The nodes take turns, but the nodes that have more data to send, they can take a little bit longer time to transfer, right? So this is what the taking turns protocol is. Now let's start with channel partitioning in MAC protocols. Okay, that means how you are partitioning the channel such that different hosts can access it at the same time without facing collisions. Okay, so the first way of multiple access, or first type of multiple access, is given as TDMA, or time division multiple access. Okay, so what happens in this case? That means the access to the channel is given to any node in rounds. Okay, so it is simply like what we have in our different round robin policies, right? So here the difference is that you are, instead of telling that these will be the quantums, and after and every node has to transmit in that particular quantum. Here we are saying that each node will transfer the data at the given round corresponding to its chance of transmission. Okay, so the access to the channel is limited to the round or the number of rounds that a given node gets. Next is each station gets fixed length slot, that is the packet's transmission time, which is basically given by the size of the packet and the data rate. And in each round, this is done, that is each station gets the fixed length of slot to transmit its data. Now, if this slot is not used at that particular time, then the slot goes idle and is unused. Okay, so some examples of such kind of transmission technique, they are or such kind of channel partitioning protocols are 6-station LAN, and here what happens is that, let us take a look. 1, 3, and 4, these are the different nodes which have packets to send, and they can send packets in different slots. But the current slots, the other slots, that is 2, 5, and 6, they are basically idle at that time. Okay, so if those slots are idle, then they will not be able to, they are not being used, leading to a poor quality resource management, because anyways we have limited amount of resource. So we should have some better access, channel access protocols, so that maximum utilization of the given resource can be done, and all the hosts or maximum amount of hosts present can also transfer their data. Okay. Now, the next way of channel partitioning for MAC protocols is FDMA, or frequency division multiple access. Okay, so what is frequency division multiple access? So what you do is you divide the channel spectrum into different frequency bands, and this frequency bands must be within the bandwidth given for transmission. Okay. So the entire spectrum of bandwidth, so that is divided into different frequency bands, and each station is allotted a frequency band at which it can transfer its data. Okay. Now, if you allot different frequencies to different hosts, and sometimes the hosts are idle because they do not have any data to send. So in that case, then these unused transmission time, which could have been otherwise used, they remain idle. So same example has been given here also with the six station LAN, that there are these packets, that is 1, 3, and 4, which have packets to send. But the frequency band, I mean, they are sending, of course, in these bands only because they have been allotted fixed frequency bands. They cannot send in any other bands. Okay. So these ones, they have data to send, so they are quite busy, whereas the other bands, which is 2, 5, and 6, they are simply idle. Okay. Now, let's, after channel partitioning, let's get to random access protocols. Okay. So what do we need? That whenever there is a packet to send by a given host, then it should be able to transmit the entire data or the packet with the full channel data rate, which is R. Okay. Now, and on top of that, there should not be any priority condition or priority coordination among different nodes. Okay. Otherwise, you have to, in fact, inform every other node present in the area that, this is how one node A is going to transfer data, and therefore nobody else should start transmitting and all that. So that is again a cumbersome process if the number of nodes present in the network is too high, right? Now, if you are not sending the information to anybody, okay, and you want to transfer data at the full data rate also. Okay, so this will lead to what? When a number of hosts are trying to transmit much data at the same time, in that case, it might lead to collision. So, in order to avoid this, some random access MAC protocols have been specified. Okay, what do they specify? They specify that how to detect a collision, if any, when more than one nodes or more than one host they try to access the channel. And then once there is such kind of collision, when it is detected, then how to recover from these collisions. So one example for this recovery is via delayed retransmissions. Okay, and some of the examples of random access MAC protocols, they are Aloha, slotted Aloha, CSMA, CSMA CD, and CSMA CA. And in this chapter, we are going to study about all of these channel access algorithms. Okay, so let us first start with Aloha. Okay, so Aloha is, of course, a channel access protocol, and I don't know how many of you have heard, but Aloha is something that this word is quite common, right? But we might have heard it from somewhere or the other, and Aloha means hello in the Hawaiian language, native language. Okay, so from there, this term was taken, and this protocol was proposed, and it is known as the slotted Aloha protocol. So, what are the assumptions for this? That all frames they should have the same size, and the time should be divided into equal size slots. Okay, so that means time to transmit one frame. How much time does it take to transmit one frame? Accordingly, the time is divided into equal size slots. Then the nodes start to transmit only when the slot begins. So that means whenever the designated slot for a particular node is there, only then the transmission can start from that particular node. And of course, because we are considering a distributed environment here, the nodes must be synchronized and they should be able to know that which node is transmitting at what time and what is the sequence of this kind of transmission. Now, if two or more nodes transmit in a given slot, then all the nodes they detect a collision. So we have seen what the assumptions of slotted Aloha. Now let us see that how the slotted Aloha operates or how does it work out. So here the steps are given. So whenever a node obtains a fresh frame, then it transmits it or it starts to transmit it in the next available time slot or the next time slot assigned to it, assigned to the given node. Okay. Now once the data is transmitted, if there is no collision, then the node can send new frame in the next slot. Okay. But if there is collision, that means there are many other nodes or many other nodes are trying to access the channel. In that case, the node will retransmit the frame in each subsequent slot with probability p until the success is achieved. Okay, so this is what is about slotted Aloha, its assumptions, and how slotted Aloha works out. Okay, now this probability p is actually a random value, and why it is random, that is a question, and I hope that you can think of some answer to this question. Okay, that why this probability p value is actually random here. So please give me the answer in the next class about this. For now, we will we'll try to finish about slotted Aloha in this class. Okay, so we have this diagram here and the legends, these are the points that they specify. C stands for collision, S stands for success, and E stands for empty. Okay, so as you can see that node 1, it transmitted data, okay, with given as 1 here at this slot itself, but because there were two other nodes that were also trying to transmit the data at this same slot, so there can be a collision in this case. Okay, here there is no packet that is to be transmitted by any one of these nodes. Okay, now check out this one, that is node 2's last attempt at 4 at the fourth slot. Okay, so in this case you can see that there is no other node that wants to transfer, so in that case it will be a successful transmission by node 2. Okay, so the pros and cons that we can have in case of slotted Aloha. Okay, the first pro is that the single active node, it can continuously transmit at the full rate of channel. Then what is the other pro? That this kind of um, uh, strategy of slotted Aloha, it is highly decentralized. Okay, that means only the slots in nodes, they need to be in sync. All right. Although it seems a bit simple, but it is, when it comes to the decentralized process of transmission, we know that it of course comes up with certain complexities of its own. Okay. Now, when we are talking about complexities, let's go to the cons that slotted Aloha has. Okay. So, what is the con? That you can still not know when a collision will occur because nodes will transmit the packets whenever they have the packet generated in them. Okay. Now, this can lead to some kind of collisions. It will also lead to some wasting of slots, right? Some precious slots in which, if there was no collision, then at least one transmission would have been done, right? Then we have if at all there is some idle slot. Of course, if there is an idle slot, we are losing out on the resource which we could have used for transmitting the data. The nodes may be able to detect collision in less than time to transmit the packet. And then finally, we have clock synchronization problems. Okay, because we have, because the thinking of it as a decentralized structure, in that case, synchronization is of course going to be a major issue. Okay, now let's check out the efficiency of slotted Aloha. Okay, wait. Okay, so okay, so long run fraction of successful slots. Okay, this is what efficiency is basically defined as. That means, what is the fraction of successful slot in which transmission of data could be done over a given time period. Okay, so now, of course, if we want to find this out, we need to first assume certain things. So suppose we have n nodes, okay, and they have a large number of frames to send, and each of these nodes can transmit these frames in a slot, in a given slot, with a probability p. Okay, so any node out of these n nodes can transmit their frames, okay, or frame at a time in a given time slot with probability p. Okay, so if we do that, if we have this kind of an assumption, then the probability that the given node has success in a slot is given by this. Okay, p times of 1 minus p power n minus 1. Okay, from your geometric distribution, you can actually see that this would be the probability for success in a given slot, and probability that any node has a success is given by np times 1 minus p power n minus 1, and therefore the maximum efficiency, okay, the maximum efficiency should be maximum of np times 1 minus p power n minus 1, right? So that means for a large number of nodes, okay, we should have, this is not written here, it should be limit n tends to infinity np times of 1 minus p, here p star is given where p star is maximum of this. So np star times 1 minus p star of p star power n minus 1. Okay, and with this, just the maximum efficiency comes out as 1 upon e, which is given by 0.37. Okay, so this is, I think it is better if you just go back to the book and see it once more for the last two steps. Okay, I'm pretty sure first three steps are pretty easy for you, but here there's an assumption that has been made. Okay, if limit n tends to infinity and you try to do this, this comes out as 1 upon e. Okay, and then it gives you a 37% of efficiency. Okay, that is 0.37 here. All right, now this is the next one, that is long run fractional successful slots, but we are already out of time, so I will stop the class here. If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I will stop the class now.